What if the very thing you're chasing is the reason it keeps running? You try so hard to hold on to be enough, do enough, give enough, but it slips through your fingers anyway. The more you try to prove your worth, the more the world seems to whisper, "Not yet." And deep down, in the silence between moments, you begin to ask yourself, why does it always feel just out of reach? Maybe you're here because something inside you is tired. Tired of loving people who don't love you back the same way. Tired of repeating patterns that leave you empty. Tired of pretending you're okay, when all you want is to be seen deeply, fully, softly, without having to fight for it. This isn't a video about fixing yourself. You're not broken. You never were. And maybe, just maybe, the love you've been chasing is already within you, just waiting for you to stop running away from yourself. Today, we're going to talk about something so subtle, so quiet, that most people live their entire lives missing it. The moment everything begins to flow, the very moment you stop chasing. Inspired by Carl Jung's deeper truths, not his theories, but the felt experiences they point to, this story is for the listener who wants to feel again, not just think, not just cope, but feel alive again. If this already feels like something you didn't know you needed, stay with me. Let it breathe. Let it open. And if, by the end, a part of you feels just a little more understood, consider subscribing or sharing this with someone else who might need to hear it. Not because you should, but because healing spreads when it's shared. Now take a breath and listen. It always begins the same way, with a child. The child is quiet, observant, sensitive in ways the world calls too much. They notice things, the way voices change when love is conditional, the way tension hums beneath laughter at the dinner table, the way their needs are met with silence or worse, shame. So the child learns. They learn that approval comes not from being, but from doing, from becoming what others need, from giving until they disappear. They learn to chase. They chase connection by overperforming. They chase safety by shrinking. They chase love by twisting themselves into a shape that feels acceptable. But here's what nobody tells them. The chase doesn't end when you grow up. It just changes form. You chase validation in work. You chase affection in people who mirror your earliest wounds. You chase purpose in constant motion, hoping that if you run fast enough, far enough, achieve high enough, maybe the ache inside will finally disappear. But it doesn't. Because the truth is, you don't actually want what you're chasing. You want what you believe it will give you. The job, the partner, the applause, the dream. None of these things are wrong, but they become painful when they are substitutes, when you use them to fill the space where your own self-acceptance should live. And so the cycle continues. You fall in love with potential, not presence. You attach to outcomes, not the moment. You strive for peace, but feel more anxious the closer you get. Because deep down, you're still that child, still running. Still hoping that if you just get it right this time, if you say the perfect thing, wear the right mask, prove how worthy you are, someone will finally stay. But love doesn't work that way. Healing doesn't work that way. You don't arrive by chasing, you arrive by stopping. And stopping is terrifying. Stopping means confronting all the noise that silence uncovers. The grief, the loneliness, the unbearable question. What if I'm not enough on my own? But here's the quiet miracle hiding in the stillness. You are. And that's when everything begins to flow. There's a strange peace that comes the moment you stop fighting to be understood. At first, it feels like loss, like something inside you has gone silent after years of screaming. You might even mistake it for giving up, but slowly, gently, you begin to realize it's not surrender and defeat. It's surrender and truth. You start noticing the spaces between things. The way morning light touches the edge of your coffee cup. The rhythm of your breath when you're not rushing to fill the silence. The way your body feels when it finally doesn't have to perform. That's when you meet yourself, not the version that's chasing, but the one that's always been waiting underneath. The world taught you that worth is earned, that love must be deserved, So you became a collector of proofs, moments, achievements, people, anything that whispered, "You're enough." But chasing worth keeps you outside of it. It's like trying to grasp water. The tighter you hold, the more it slips away. The truth is, the things meant for you cannot be chased. They unfold when you're ready to receive them, not when you demand them. You cannot chase peace. You can only make space for it. And maybe that's what Jung meant, that what you resist persists. Because when you chase love, you resist solitude. When you chase validation, you resist stillness. When you chase control, you resist trust. And life, in its quiet wisdom, keeps giving you chances to stop running. Maybe you've noticed it, the same type of person showing up in a different face, the same disappointment wearing a new disguise, the same ache that returns. No matter how far you go or how much you change your surroundings, that's not punishment. That's life asking. Will you choose differently this time? But choosing differently is hard because the chase feels safe. It gives you something to do. It fills the silence with motion, the fear with focus. Stopping feels like free falling, like losing the identity that once made you feel useful. Yet it's in that free fall where the truth begins to whisper. You were never falling. You were being carried. There's a story, not a myth, but something quiet that happens in almost everyone's life. One day, something breaks you open. A heartbreak that strips you bare. A loss that leaves you breathless. A failure that shakes your illusion of control. You reach the edge of your striving and suddenly, you can't pretend anymore. You can't keep chasing what keeps wounding you. That's the moment your old self dissolves. The part of you built from shoulds, from survival, from proving, it begins to crumble. And underneath it, something soft begins to glow. Something honest. Something that doesn't want to run anymore. At first, it's faint like a voice you barely recognize. It doesn't say, try harder. It says, rest. It doesn't say, be more. It says, come home. It doesn't demand that you fix yourself. It just asks you to see yourself. And when you do, when you finally see your own heart without needing it to be different, that's when everything starts flowing. You'll notice it in strange ways. Conversations that used to drain you now feel lighter because you no longer try to convince anyone of your value. Relationships that were once built on fear begin to fade, and you don't chase after them, you let them go with love. And the things that used to trigger your panic now meet a quieter version of you, one that knows it doesn't have to fight for love anymore. Because now you understand what you were chasing was never outside you. It was you, the whole time. Sometimes, the pain of stopping feels worse than the pain of running. Because when you stop, everything catches up to you, the memories you buried, the parts of yourself you silenced, just to survive. You start to feel all the things you were too busy, too distracted, too afraid to feel. And that's when the real work begins, not fixing, not healing in some grand performative way, just witnessing, sitting beside the version of you who learned to cope through movement, the one who thought love had to be earned through exhaustion, the one who thought being still meant being unloved. You may find yourself in moments of deep loneliness, but don't confuse loneliness with emptiness. That space inside you, it's not a void, it's a clearing, a place where all the noise has quieted, and now something true can grow. This is the threshold, the sacred space between who you were and who you're becoming. And though it hurts God, it hurts there's beauty here too. The kind of beauty that can't be chased, only received. The kind that comes when your tears wash away the false layers and you're left with only what's real. You'll start to see things differently. The people you once clung to, you'll begin to see how they mirrored your wounds, not your worth. The relationships that once consumed you, they'll lose their grip because you're no longer asking them to be your salvation. You'll realize how often you called pain love. How often you mistook inconsistency for passion, silence for peace, anxiety for excitement. But instead of blaming yourself, you'll begin to feel compassion. Because now you understand you were never broken. You were adapting, learning, surviving. You were chasing what you didn't get as a child: presence, tenderness, protection. You were trying to earn the kind of love that should have been given freely. But here's the turning point. You stop trying to get it from others. You begin giving it to yourself. Not in grand gestures, but in quiet moments. In the way you let yourself rest without guilt. In the way you no longer explain your boundaries. In the way you whisper, "I'm here," to the parts of you that still feel small, scared, and not enough. That's when the flow begins. Opportunities that once felt forced start showing up naturally. Connections rooted in safety, not intensity, begin to form. You start choosing differently, not because you're trying harder, but because you're no longer trying to escape. You find yourself saying no without apology, walking away without dramatic closure, choosing peace over proving. Not because you don't care, but because you finally do. And the world begins to mirror this shift, slowly at first, then all at once. People sense the change in your energy, though they can't name it. They just feel safer around you because you're not asking them to fill a void. You've made peace with your own depth. You start living in a rhythm that's not frantic, not performative, just honest. And in this honesty, there's power, a quiet kind, the kind that doesn't need to shout to be heard. There's a soft rebellion in choosing stillness, a quiet defiance in saying, "I don't need to chase anything to be worthy." In a world that rewards the loudest, fastest, most visible climb, you instead begin to root, to stay, to listen. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes this new kind of peace feels like grief, because when you stop chasing, you also stop distracting. You mourn the time you spent trying to earn love from people who couldn't offer it. You grieve the years where your energy went to performing instead of just being, and that's okay. There's a certain holiness in that sadness, a kind of purification. You're not being punished, you're being returned to yourself. And as the grief moves through you, so does a strange, steady joy. Not the explosive, temporary kind, but something deeper. A contentment in knowing you are finally showing up for yourself in the way you once begged others to. That changes everything. You begin to love differently, not from desperation, but from abundance. You stop over-explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer beg for closure from those who left without warning. You stop romanticizing the chaos that once felt like home. Because now, you've made a home within. You realize that it's not people leaving that hurts the most, it's the moment you abandon yourself in the process of trying to keep them. And you're done with that now. You're done bleeding to keep connections alive. You choose presence over performance, depth over drama, alignment over approval. And people may not understand. They may say you've changed, that you're colder, that you're distant. But you're not distant, you're discerning. You're not cold, you're clear. You're not less loving, you're just no longer confusing love with self-sacrifice. You see, the world has a way of trying to pull you back into the chase. You'll feel the pull in moments of silence, in the sting of rejection, in the ache of comparison. You'll be tempted to go back to reach, to explain, to prove. But now you know better. Now you know the cost. And you choose peace anyway. There will be days where this choice feels lonely. Days where you wonder if the chase was easier. At least it was familiar. At least it gave you something to hold on to, even if it was hurting you. But familiarity is not the same as truth. And love, real love, does not require the loss of yourself. So when the pull comes, and it will, return to this knowing. What flows to you is yours. What aligns with your truth will stay. What respects your stillness will remain. You don't have to chase what is already drawn to your essence. Let that be your freedom. Let that be your healing. Let that be the quiet, revolutionary truth you carry in your bones. You are already enough. You always were. Somewhere along the way, you'll look in the mirror and not see someone who's waiting to be chosen, but someone who already has been by you. And that changes the way you love, not just others, but life. The ache that used to gnaw at your chest in quiet moments, it softens. The tension you carried in your shoulders, from holding everything and everyone together, begins to release. The patterns that once felt like fate begin to fade because you're no longer repeating what you're finally willing to feel. You no longer seek intensity to feel alive. You no longer crave chaos to feel needed. You no longer confuse longing with love. Now, you know the difference. Now, you choose softness not because it's weak, but because it's powerful. A power that doesn't need to take, to chase, to strive. A power that simply is. And here's the strange gift in all of this. When you stop chasing, people notice. Some will be drawn to your peace. They'll feel the clarity in your presence, the depth in your silence, the steadiness in your being. They'll come closer, not because you lured them in, but because they feel safe to be themselves too. Others will leave, not because you did something wrong, but because your stillness confronts their chaos. Because when you no longer reflect their wound, they no longer recognize you. And you'll let them go without bitterness, without begging. Because you finally understand, not everyone is meant to stay. Some were mirrors, some were messengers, and some were lessons you were brave enough to learn. It's not about who stays anymore. It's about how you stay with yourself. That's the heart of this. That's where the flow comes from. You can stop obsessing over whether you're doing enough. You can stop micromanaging your worth. You can stop trying to make people stay who are committed to leaving. You can stop pretending that if you just try harder, they'll see you, love you, choose you. Because the moment you choose yourself is the moment life begins to breathe again. It's quiet at first, like a river thawing after a long winter. You feel small bursts of peace in places you used to feel anxious. You laugh without guilt. You cry without shame. You feel without hiding. That's the flow. It's not a goal to reach. It's a returning to the part of you that never needed to be anything more than what you already are. And as you live from that place, not chasing, not resisting life, begins to meet you differently. People show up who speak your language without translation. Work begins to feel like an expression, not a performance. Love begins to feel like safety, not survival. You stop grasping for answers because you trust your inner knowing. You stop clinging to what hurts because peace feels more familiar now. You stop running because there's nowhere left to be but here, right now. Some mornings you'll wake up and forget what it used to feel like, that constant hum of not enoughness, that ache to be wanted, that need to be needed. It won't disappear all at once, but over time, it fades, like smoke dissolving into air. You'll walk into rooms without shrinking. You'll speak without rehearsing. You'll rest without guilt. And in those moments, you'll realize you no longer live in reaction to the pain. You live in response to your truth. There will still be echoes of the old life, the one where you overextended, overexplained, overcorrected to keep people comfortable. But now, you notice it. You pause, you breathe, and you choose differently. Not because it's easy, because it's yours. And this deep-rooted being is what you were chasing all along. Not a person, not perfection, not even peace. But you, the you that holds space for her own tears without rushing to wipe them away. The you that walks away from almost love without bitterness, because almost is no longer enough. The you that honors her softness, her slowness, her no, and her yes without justification. The you that remembers her worth is not a currency to trade for belonging. When Jung said, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size," he wasn't talking about punishment. He was talking about truth, about the things inside us that beg to be seen, the unhealed longing, the old grief, the stories we told ourselves in order to survive. When we chase things to avoid facing those parts of us, they grow, they repeat, they pull us into familiar heartbreak and call it fate. But when you stop resisting, when you turn toward your ache instead of away from it, it no longer has to scream to be heard. It softens, it breathes, it heals, because now, finally, it has your presence. And that was all it ever needed. Not fixing, not numbing, not more. Just you. You become the thing you were seeking in everyone else. The safe place, the home, the witness. And people feel it. They feel the groundedness in your no, the clarity in your boundaries, the softness in your yes. You don't have to explain why you no longer settle for half love. You don't need to prove your growth to anyone. Your peace speaks loud enough. You are no longer performing for belonging. You belong in your body, in your breath, in your life. You are no longer shrinking to be chosen. You choose from wholeness, not from fear. You are no longer chasing the things that once ran from you. Because now, you know, what is meant for you feels like rest. What is aligned with you won't require self-abandonment. What flows towards you, and you are finally still enough to receive it. There comes a moment, and maybe it's already arrived for you, when you sit in the middle of your life, in the quiet of your own heart, and realize you made it. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've stopped abandoning yourself to fix what was never yours to carry. You've stopped leaking your soul into places that were never meant to hold it. You've stopped begging for permission to be what you already are. This is arrival, and it's nothing like the movies. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's not some triumphant scene with applause and fireworks. It's gentle. It's the way you exhale without even realizing you were holding your breath. It's the moment you let a message go unanswered, not out of anger, but because your peace matters more. It's the morning you wake up and feel light in your chest, instead of that familiar pressure to prove something. It's the way you walk through your day without that constant voice in your head asking if you're enough. This is not the life they sold you. It's better, because now your life belongs to you. You don't fear losing people who don't choose you. You don't chase what doesn't see your value. You don't shrink so others can feel more comfortable. You don't trade your truth for temporary closeness. You've learned that it's okay to outgrow what once felt like everything, that sometimes the chase was just a way to distract from the parts of you that long to be held. But now you hold them, and in doing so, you hold you. So when love comes, and it won't feel like a rescue. It will feel like a reflection. It won't try to fill your emptiness. It will honor your fullness. It won't demand your sacrifice. It will celebrate your freedom. And when opportunities arise, you won't grab them from scarcity. You'll meet them from abundance, because you know you no longer need to prove yourself through doing. You've stopped outsourcing your worth to how much you can offer, fix, save, hold together. You've remembered something the world tried to make you forget. That you are the gift, not the version of you who hustles for love. Not the version who keeps it all together. Not the version who bends until she breaks. You as you are, the quiet, soft, strong, flawed, beautiful you. You stopped casing, and that's when everything started flowing.